to keep you guys waiting. Oh, Joy's asking, it's planning board in person or online? In person, town hall.
We've been going back and forth between Zoom meetings, in person.
Okay, she will be here as soon as she can make it.
Yeah.
Always it's a 15 minutes before, like at 7 or like a quarter of 7.
Oh, yeah.
One day I was, supposed to be in a meeting.
Hi there, sorry.
Hey, Cindy, how are you?
You're too, they like close the door? Oh,
Oh, that's fine.
hi, Sid.
Sorry to be late, you
Oh,
guys.
it's okay.
My signal for them to start recording.
Typically, there's 5 of us on the planning board, but there'll just be the 4 of us here tonight.
Mm-hmm.
All right, 7:05 PM, let's start the Southampton Planning Board meeting. My understanding, the first on agenda tonight is a permit on Montgomery, is that right?
43 Montgomery.
43 Montgomery?
23.
23, okay. Do you want to give us a presentation what you have?
Okay, guys, I want to just introduce myself. My name is Bylaw. I live in Southampton past 19 years. I have a business in a Belgian-town. I'm planning to start building a house in a Belgian-town next to my business. For 2 years I couldn't prove conservation. A little bit last COVID, and I bought this property in Montgomery. We have a little situation. My son is a Indian.
Can you stand next to the podium so they can hear,
Yeah,
you?
my son is in a wheelchair. We live in a brickyard road, outdoors, it's a 32 inches, we need a wider. And we plan to build a new house with everything for handicap. And right now, this, I want to show you what we have. No, this is only one watching this. Paul asked me to show what we can do with land. This is such a long, it's almost 1,000 feet of our parcel. That's 175 to, 362 is right there. We don't want to destroy whole land. We want to just driveway. This is septic is right there. A little pump is gonna be over here. It's like a 300 feet away from my house. It's a septic. It's gonna pump it into this septic. We going to be this is already cut trees. It's right there.
Yep.
Here we don't want to touch any more trees because I want to just house like on a woods. This is start like a hill, big hill over there. We even don't want to touch this one. Only one I want to show to you what we can cut a little bit trees over here before septic, and this side and right here. Between me and neighbor, we're keeping all nice hemlocks and like a white and black birches. Over here, it's most of like oak and maples right here, and a lot of bushes, shrubs and bushes. It's a wild place over there. Yeah.
Simple question. So you're updating an existing house?
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
so
it's not existing, it's a new house. We're gonna build a new house over here.
You're
My
building a new
existing
house.
house in a brickyard, we're gonna be selling because
Okay,
we need everything for handicap.
understood.
Yeah.
So this is, you're building a new
Yeah.
house that's handicap accessible
Yep.
here. Okay, thank you.
So how wide is this section here to here?
Okay, over here, it's gonna be just 30 feet. 30 feet, here it's a 157, 30 feet driveway, and a little bit like a 8 feet probably over here before, because septic right there, we need a 20 feet away cut tree in the front of the septic. This is no trees here, and just this area a little bit. All the rest of it, we keep in, all wood we keep.
What's the size of your lot?
So, 5 acres.
You have 5 acres?
Yeah.
So you have 300 feet, and you have a 30-foot, let's say 40-foot, oh, because of your trees you're cutting. And then you have this area here. Well, what is this area?
Yeah, this is area probably, like 90 feet by 90 feet, something like that. That's a little,
So-
back, we wanna keep this grass over here. It's all yellow, it's a grass. This all woods and driveway, house and little shed over there.
So it's about 10,000. We're just looking at the square
Yeah, yeah,
footage,
yeah.
you're just
Yeah,
surveying it.
I mean, the question is if, how many square foot you'd be clearing, right?
Oh, yeah, clear probably about, 30,000.
30,000.
Yeah, 30,000 square feet. We just
Right.
calculating.
That's good.
With
It's
my
under-
family, about 30, maybe 30, 32. It's not more than that, because
Yes.
I want to keep it a wild place in my,
That's good, because there's a threshold, once
Oh,
you get
yeah.
over, that you need to
I
have.
I know that.
Oh,
bec-
okay.
Yeah, because, you know, on this side from neighbor, I don't want to touch it nice, like a fence.
Yeah,
Sorry, town hall
Oh,
requires
okay,
these. I
okay.
apologize
No problem.
for not noticing it before.
Yeah, well, that's.
It's not that, it's the town plan, yeah. Sorry.
Thank you.
so your numbers, this one, picture, I'd say work out less than 40,000 square feet.
Yeah, 30, between 30 and 32,000
So,
square feet. That's enough for us. It's too much long
Yeah.
move if we do
Yeah.
more.
you make extra work for yourself.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So, just doing some crude math, based on the driveway and the offsets, the driveway itself is, you know, if you did the driveway at 45 feet for 300 feet, that's roughly 13,500 square feet, plus, you know, if you did 100 by 100 clearing around the house, that's 10,000 on top of that, so you're looking at 23,000, so that seems,
We want to do this one grass, a little bit on this side, between driveway and that side is, it's like, it's yellow, it's all like a lawn. This is lawn is right here.
so how far are you going out here?
Just say top of my head. That's a group, I think it's at 10,000 square feet, it's right there. Yeah, we calculate with my family, with my wife and my son. It's about 32,000 square.
So typically when we have these things, I mean, looks like you're under 40,000, but we need to see dimensions in terms of, you know, what's this dimension here? All right,
Okay, actually, Paul, it's right here, we don't touch it here. In the front, we're gonna just keep it like that.
yeah, but you're starting roughly here.
Yeah,
So what is this dimension from here to here?
it's probably, like, if it's driveway, it's a 12 feet driveway, and right here, probably 15 feet and 20 feet, it's right here. Yeah,
So you're saying it's 12 plus 15
and 20.
plus 20. So what's that, 35? So that's 50 feet there,
Mhm.
or 45 feet there?
Just put some 50 feet forward, 50 feet by approximately 300 feet.
So that's still under, so it's like, what, 15,000?
Yeah.
And then this section here, you're saying it's 100
It's
feet?
100 by 100 approximately, yeah.
Okay, and this is, you're not clearing beyond here?
No, because right here it starts the hill, you know, it's, and the rock, sticking a rock from hill, you know, I don't wanna touch.
Okay, so based on what I'm seeing here, it looks like your total is 25,000. You're saying 30,000 based on what you're doing, so it seems like it's under the threshold
Yeah.
of the 40,000.
It's a keeping a less work for me because I'm getting some older every day.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah.
I find it reasonable looking at his plan that it's under 40,000.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
Any questions?
okay. Oh, this is my card, my business card. If you needed some kind, okay, for you. Flooring,
So this is
flooring-
23 Montgomery.
Flooring needs, it's all for me. 25 years in the business.
Okay, so to get a vote, to approve the stormwater, or not stormwater, but the disturbance plan here that we have for 23 Montgomery Road, based on coordination with the applicant and the measuring here, we're under 40,000, looks like we're more like 30, 35 from what the applicant says.
So this is basically an A and R, right?
No, A&R is,
Oh, this is just for the stormwater.
this is for the disturbance, for his permit, he's looking for a building permit for a site. So it's for the building permits.
And on this side, we have some, like, goes like, well, all storm water is all right now, it goes here and goes down in a little river. It's right there.
So you have a stream back
Yeah,
there?
it's not a stream, it's just like a rock.
How far is your stream from the,
No, stream, it's right there, all the way down. Over here, it's, like all storm water goes down the hill. It's right there between me and my neighbor. It's right there. It's a stream, it's right there, it's like another 500 feet to the stream.
just take a look on the,
Yeah, between stream and my house is a big hill, it's like well, 400 feet, linear feet probably in the hill.
did you start the permit application to get signed off?
Everything is ready except for the planning board.
Do you have the
Yeah.
permit?
Not permit, I have some paperwork.
One question I had, which I couldn't tell from that plan, is the slope. Does the slope towards the road?
Yes, slope from top of the hill and,
Top of the
you know,
hill.
like a valve goes now between my parcel and the neighbor parcel. If it's winter time or after rain, all water goes away.
Okay, I just want to know, we may want to discuss any erosion control during construction, to prevent, any runoff onto the roadway.
This guy, what's his name? Ron, we have all paperwork is complete, except on one sign for planning board.
So which is this? Is this the site right here? Is this the one right here? Where's the building site?
This my neighbor?
Yeah?
Gather round. Hey, he's a smart guy.
Roma.
He's a computer.
Roma. Can you open in your Google and yeah, and show to,
Second Brook?
yeah, second, where's the brook?
Yeah, so, our lot, I'll just turn it on to, let's see over. Our lot is this lot, the driveway goes up here, and the house is going to be around here. And if I turn it back into, the map, so if our house is somewhere around here, Second Brook is over the mountain and on this side.
Over the mountains.
On the other side of the
Oh,
hill?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's about,
I wasn't sure where that was,
700
okay.
feet from my house.
It's far.
Well, yeah, it's so
Okay.
far, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, this is.
So, before we sign it,
Yeah.
just bring it back to the board. So it looks like the house is on the other side of the stream?
Yeah,
The disturbance area, based on the information he's telling us, is 30,000 feet, 30,000 square feet, which is under the 40,000 threshold that we have. We have any questions before we open up the vote?
the one issue or question I brought up was the sloping, and you mentioned it slopes towards the road, so.
No, towards the woods.
Towards the woods?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah,
I-
it goes from top of the hill, if it's in the winter time, it's like nice and slope and goes, turns, like before when my building is gonna be, like 100 feet, and turns and goes, neighbor's side and goes around the hill, goes in the stream.
Right, so if it's sloping towards the road, again, like to see some type of erosion control to prevent runoff onto the road during construction.
Yeah, that's, on the road, no water goes on the road, it goes on
Okay.
a different side.
Okay,
Yeah, it's like a little slopy land right there. And
Okay.
all the water goes, it's absolutely perfect place to build a house.
I think what we would like to see from a comfort level, given the fact that we don't see what the contours are, and you have a general plan that says that, you know, it's not that detailed in terms of what the contours are. Obviously, you're saying to us it's under our threshold, which is fine. However, what you need to do as the applicant, as the builder, is ensure that you're not gonna have a problem with clearing where there are exposed grades that erosion is going off your property into somebody else's property. And that's what we're trying to avoid in terms of that particular control of your site construction. So I will assure you that if it starts eroding and it's going to people's property or it's going in the road, we're going to hear about it.
yeah.
So,
Don't we usually try to notify the neighbors when somebody makes a proposal like this, so they at least have an opportunity to comment on the potential?
well, he's under the threshold.
Because he's under the threshold, he's safe.
He's safe. He doesn't have to go through the
Yeah,
process.
I'm already met with that neighbors and that neighbors. This actually, that neighbors, it was brother who sold this property to me. It was 30 years he lived in Vermont. This parcel, 30 years ago, it was drilled a well, and nobody never built a house. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess from a board's point of view, do we want to make a note of the applicant being responsible for maintenance of potential erosion or runoff that is uncontrolled, that's going on to the neighbor's property? That's gonna be your responsibility if that happens, so that's obviously,
Yeah.
you know, if there's, you know, areas where your clearing is disrupting the area or flowing into neighboring properties or even the street during rain events,
Yeah, yeah.
that needs to be resolved during the event, meaning that you need to put some kind of silt fence or hay bales or silt socks out there to mitigate that flow.
So if we sign this, that's not documented anywhere, that contingency, right? I mean, that's,
Over here,
Just-
this is neighbor
No,
house, it's right here, it's like 300 feet from my house. This is where the slope, that house, when we see in the picture, and over here, like 30 feet after driveway, it's right here. My house, between two houses. And this is absolutely safe. This house is safe, it's partially safe, and that house is absolutely safe for me.
Right, no, we understand that. It's a matter of enforcement.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the building inspector, this is where this falls into his jurisdiction.
Mhm.
So it wouldn't be any different than if it was a 40,000, well, obviously it would be a different process with the 40,000 area disturbance where obviously there would be conditions that would be put in, but if there's erosion conditions, that's something that's on him to take care of.
Yeah. If I do something wrong, my neighbor take me to court, I don't want.
But I see your point about the condition not being, there's no place for
Yeah, I
that.
think- yeah, I understand about the, you know, the fact that it falls within the under the amount of square footage that we just approved it. And I'm sure this gentleman's gonna do everything he can to protect his neighbors, but I think that's my concern.
Can we require a silt fence beforehand in this application? That would put something in place in writing. That's a method, but I don't know if we have that authority.
Oh, well, I guess we can ask for certain things. The question is, where? You know,
Right.
we don't know what the contours look
Yes,
like.
that's the thing, we don't know
That's
the
the thing.
contours.
That's, so my point is, you know, keeping it with the applicant's responsibility. If it's,
Okay.
if it's a problem, then that's something that the building inspector needs to address immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, that allows you to move forward, and it's on you if there's an event to handle that, so.
Any further questions before we open up to vote?
I don't,
More,
Motion on the, there's a motion to, can I get a motion to approve the building permit for 23 Montgomery Road?
motion to approve the building permit?
second,
Motion on the floor, can I get a vote, please?
LaValle, aye.
Stein, aye.
Palmer, aye.
Forgal, aye. Okay. Okay. Do you want to fill out the top part here with the property information? Right. So you gotta get other permits, you gotta go get other signatures, I guess.
Okay, it's all, on the other paper, everything is complete. He said, just bring me only one sign and we will.
Because you gotta go to the Board of Health and, right?
Yeah, Board of Health, she already signed.
So where's that one? So we typically sign the sheet that she,
Okay, it's a building inspector had.
okay,
Whole sheet.
okay. So I don't know how that works if you,
Well, he
If
gave
you-
it to me, he said, if you go on a meeting, if you take this one, they will sign to you.
okay.
Okay,
All right.
If it's not worth, they're coming back again.
Well, you have two papers. That's a building inspector. If he gave that to you, then,
Okay, thank you very much,
All right.
guys.
Good luck.
very good luck.
Okay, let's start soon, probably, next couple of weeks we start.
excellent, best of luck.
Consider changing the agenda, those two people here for
Okay, guys,
32
have a
High
good night.
Street.
Okay, nice to meet you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good luck.
All right, next on the agenda is update on 23 High Street. Is there someone here that wants to talk about it? 23 High Street, are you here for 23 High Street?
32?
I'm sorry, 32 High Street.
Yes,
I'm dyslexic today, so
okay.
if you want to come up to the mic.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for the volunteering that you do, the work that you do on the planning board. My name is Dan McNichol. I'm at 39 High Street, across the street from 32 High Street. And I'm pretty sure everybody in the room or on this board knows about the event that took place at the end of last year, 2020, a landslide that began at 32 High Street, continued across the public way, shut down High Street. The person who cleared the material with his excavator told me it was 18 inches deep. The landslide continued on across the street onto my property, 39 High Street, and continued down through my property onto Mrs. Brown's property, right behind, right to the side of mine, to the north of it. My concerns are multiple, but for brevity's sake, I'll get right to it. I have three major concerns. One, I'd like to know what triggered that landslide. What, in the planning board's opinion, caused that landslide, and I believe an ensuing cease and desist order?
Would you like that answered now?
Sure.
So I believe what triggered the landslide
Well,
was.
Dan, before you make an opinion,
Okay.
I will
Okay.
caution you from speaking on behalf of the board without a professional opinion. If he's looking for legal action, I will not.
Okay.
I'm not here pursuing legal action. I'm here
Well,
pursuing answers and the truth,
Right.
and they're different.
So, did I hear you say you're pursuing legal action? Is that what I heard you at the beginning?
You heard that incorrectly. I am not here tonight pursuing legal action. I have the right to pursue that later if I choose, but I am not here for any litigious reasons. I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm extremely happy in my home, moved here about a year ago. Under a great deal of duress during the plague, I put down $50,000 on this property, 39 High Street, when the landslide took place. So I was vested in the property. And immediately after that, I passed papers with Mr. John Kent, who owned the property. And only because he's a stand-up individual was I guaranteed by him, whose word I trust, that I would be okay, I'd be made whole. Because I was buying a landslide. I was buying the damage caused by that landslide. Now, I know the landslide shut down the public way, and there was cost to the town for that. Mrs. Brown's field was impacted as well, but I took the bulk of the hit on that landslide. And it cost me an enormous amount of my time. I have at the time, a 1-year-old. My wife was pregnant and gave birth during the drought and the cleanup of the landslide. The contractor said, I am not here as an admission of guilt to clean this up. I'm doing Mr. Felton a favor. John Kent, who stayed involved, he's a retired police officer. I asked him to be the sheriff and just make sure it got done. And he himself reached into his pocket and paid for the seeding after the landscaping was done, after the excavation work was done. And to me, I was left with, and I asked Mr. Felton, the owner of 32 High, to finish the job. But he wouldn't. He dropped off some hoses, he dropped off some seed, he dropped off a couple cheap sprinklers, and paid half my water bill overage, not the whole thing. When I asked him to pay for the whole thing, $120, I got a check for $57.50. Happy to show it to you. So I feel like two things are at play here. There was a landslide, a major event, caused a public disturbance. I'm concerned about the safety of my family. I'm concerned about the value of my property. And I'm concerned about the environment on High Street specifically. And what I'd like to know is what, in the town's opinion, triggered the landslide. And I'm seeking answers because I've asked the town, and I get different answers. I've been told that Mr. Felton is in violation of something in every single department, this by the town administrator. But Mr. Felton says nothing of the sort. He says it's the town's fault. As a matter of fact, he told me to go to the town to get my water bill paid. It was their fault. So when there's two separate opinions so strongly, so wildly different, I'm gravely concerned about what is going on. He's been up there since he got his building permit. I'm assuming this board permitted it or signed it. But trailer, cargo containers, lots of vehicles, no activity on the permit. I thought he was up there and allowed to live on the property only because he had a permit and he was building a house. But I don't see a house. And every time he tells me he's going to start building the house, another month passes, and another month passes, and another month. And it concerns me. I bought and paid monthly taxes on a property that it seems incongruent with the neighborhood that there be trailers and not a home up there. So I'd like to know, what's going on? Well, who's enforcing this? And can I get an answer though? Can I get an answer on what we all think what triggered that landslide? Because I'm getting this from the town and Mr. Felton.
Did you talk to the building inspector?
I did.
He's the enforcer in this circumstance, so what was his answer?
The building inspector explained that he hadn't seen the site in a while and he was going to go up there and do a site inspection. I did not ask him specifically what was the cause of the landslide. The answers I've been getting from that vary, so that's why I'm asking the planning board. I think you all have the most jurisdiction. I was on the Zoom call for Concom on Monday for their meeting and got no satisfaction there.
Did they refer you to his engineer?
Bucky Sparkle was on the call.
Right. Did Bucky Sparkle, the engineer representing Mr. Felton, provide an
No.
answer as to what caused that landslide?
No. I asked about the landslide to the town and several people at the town, and I really don't want to go down the path of naming names, who I talked to and when I talked to them, but I'm going to be very specific. I asked from the town administrator on down what happened. And I'm just a citizen. I am not
What did the
a
town,
building inspector or a vested interest in the 32 High Street other than
what did the
impacts
town
them.
administrator say to you?
that he's in violation of something in almost every department across the board in the town.
Right, because he didn't get any permits, but that doesn't answer your question, that you're seeking whose fault it is for what happened there?
Yeah, I'm asking what, that was a major event. I mean, the UPS driver, the FedEx driver, and the post office woman talk about it every day when I see them at my mailbox. So I'm just curious, what is the opinion of the planning board about what happened? Because I keep asking, but I don't get any.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you're asking the right board the question, I mean, and.
See, this is what I was afraid of, this happened before, and it
Right,
seems to constantly
but
happen.
Can I just, so I'll give you an example of a professional. I'm a professional engineer myself, so I deal with erosion on projects and on developments, and I deal with major developments that are.
I have a degree in engineering as well, so I respect that.
So what I will tell you is that the answer you're seeking for, you're probably going to get a hard-pressed answer from anyone in the town to say clearly that it's his fault. And in terms of what you're looking for is an opinion for us to say officially that he disturbed land and it resulted in X, Y, and Z. It's obvious that he disturbed land. It's obvious that there was a rainfall event. It's obvious that there was a major movement of soil after said rainfall event. And it's obvious that it damaged your property, it damaged adjacent property. So that on the surface is obvious that these events happen as a result of actions that occurred. I'm not sure what we as a board can fortify beyond what's obvious. I mean, if you're looking to seek action on behalf of the neighbors and yourself for damages, you know, the way that I would do it is, you know, we don't have the authority to go to tell him that he's got to do X, Y, and Z. It's a matter of getting the right professionals involved, either an engineer, or even a letter from an attorney that could be a one-page letter identifying whatever. And I'm not speaking on behalf of the board, I'm just speaking what I've seen other people do.
Well, let me just interject, because it sounds like you're thinking I'm still going to pursue a legal action, and I am not here tonight to pursue that. What I'm really getting at here is, can someone tell me on the record what happened? No one's done that yet, and I haven't seen anything there, and it concerns me greatly that this is going to happen again. So I'd like to know for certain, from the professionals, from the board, what happened? What does the official record say? What is the town's answer to a simple question? What happened? What caused that landslide specifically? Not just construction, but was it the clear cutting? Was it the overcutting? Was it the removal of trees that were tagged by the Conservation Commission that were not supposed to be removed? Was it the grubbing of those roots? Not only were the trees cleared, but were the roots pulled out as well? Is that what triggered the landslide? Is he on ledge? I don't know. And if all those things happened, I'd like to know.
I mean, my personal opinion is you'd need a professional to go evaluate the, you're talking about roots coming up or certain trees being cut down. What caused the landslide, whether this tree was cut down or that tree was cut down, we can't say that. I mean, I just don't have any way of knowing that.
How about, were trees that were tagged cut down?
I personally don't know. That is a good question that
I mean, is that how simplified or dumbed down I have to ask the question? Because I can put it in writing, but I'm just trying to find out what happened because it impacted me dramatically. I spent enormous amounts of time out there. When I should have been with my newborn son, I was out there watering during a drought because he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't hire someone to do it. He wouldn't come down and do it himself.
So I'm going to ask a question of the board. Now, I know two of you were not on the board at the time, and the others are not here besides you and I. But didn't we have the landowner's professional engineer, Bucky Sparkle, made somehow responsible for the mitigation of the issue? I mean, we know it happened. Why it happened, I can't answer, but it happened. And didn't we put him in some level of responsibility for, reviewing the plan and all the other aspects to the culvert and all that? And that was the decision of the planning board at the time when he was.
Right, but that doesn't answer his question.
No, it doesn't answer his question, and I can't answer it either. I mean, as to whether or not there were trees tagged that shouldn't have come down, I don't know.
Right, and nobody, to be frank, nobody in the planning board went and looked at the conditions pre and post, because we didn't know it was happening, first of all. Second of all, for us to officially give you an opinion, to say, well, it's clearly the owner's irresponsibility on not putting proper procedures, that we can't say that, because we don't know what was done. We just know the obvious events that occurred, where there was earth removal, there was a storm event, and then obviously the subsequent mudslide. So
It
that's
would be in the town's interest to know why their public road was closed, right? And why their culverts were filled with.
And what is the town gonna do after that? I guess I'm just trying to
Sorry?
understand. What is the town gonna do after that?
I mean, figure out what the cause was or try to prevent it from happening again?
Well,
It's public safety. if
it is,
the
I mean,
public road
no,
is
you're bringing a
closed.
very good point, but it's clear that there were, it's explained by many that there were permits violations with the site, where they didn't come to the planning board for the review of disturbance of property. There were land clearing events, there were storm events, which caused erosion events that caused damage. So, that there's nothing that we can say to kind of stamp it, say, okay, this is exactly what happened, because no one's investigated
Okay.
the events.
If an event happened, I think we all agree on, there was a major geological event that happened when the landslide took place, shut down the road, damaged my property. Can you just tell me what was done, what plan the town has to prevent this from happening again, and has it
Dan, I'm sorry, I forgot.
Has it been enforced? I mean, has a plan been drawn up, and is he being held to that?
Again, referring you to Bucky Sparkle, he had drawn up a plan.
He's a private citizen, though. He's a private
So
enterprise.
Dan,
Bucky,
we had a plan that was approved by the planning board to mitigate the conditions on site.
Okay, thank you.
Which was done, I forget when, honestly, do you remember when this happened?
oh geez.
Was it the end of the- End of the winter?
Yeah.
I moved in December of 2020, and I think he got a permit sometime in the spring, maybe?
Yeah, it was like.
And that's
late-
when he was allowed to
late-
move his trailer
Yeah,
up
it was
there?
like late, yeah, it was around that time. So
Okay.
back then, he had a plan that was, he
I
had a
saw it
plan-
go, I saw it go in. A substantial stormwater system, lots of infrastructure, lots of pipes.
Right, and he should
manhole
have had
covers.
erosion prevention materials out there, either silt socks or hay bales, fences, or something, based on what was on the plans, and I don't recall exactly what was on there. So to bring up our coordination with other town officials, we reached out to the Highway Department Super, Randall Kemp, to get his opinion on activity on site, and he has no concerns with, he went there apparently, and there's no concerns with the current activity that's out there. I haven't been to the site, I haven't seen what's being done out there I don't know if there's any activity out there at all, so in terms of.
There's not construction activity.
Right, so I don't even know what was done since that approved plan took place.
Okay.
But it seems like there was something, it seems like there's no, from what I'm hearing, since early spring, right? There hasn't been any complaints about earth movement
There-
or
yeah.
erosion?
During large rainfall events, I happened to drive by that spot, and I haven't noticed any abnormalities.
Have not, or have?
Have not observed any abnormalities in the amount of runoff onto the road. That's just my casual observance. I would say that you may find the answer you seek in some of the records of the Conservation Commission and the Planning Board. If you go back and look at the minutes, specifically when when his engineer was reporting out.
This engineer?
Yeah, that's his business, yep. His engineer, when he was talking, you may find.
Wasn't he hired after the event to clean up the event, to make sure it didn't happen again? That's my understanding of Bucky Sparkle's role, that he was not even on board when the landslide took place.
Timing, not 100% sure on, but I believe he was hired in the middle of this, in the midst of all this. But don't quote me on that one. His timing of hiring.
Part of my questioning is, my hope is that the ground has been forever changed, and if the systems, like the root systems, the natural systems, the organic ones, have been removed, my question is, what is going to go in their stead? What is going to be there to prevent it from happening again?
So, Dan, Mr. McNichol, there's a lot of rain this summer. Have you seen washout since, say, June of this year, onto the road yourself? Have you observed any?
Just very minor. I know that upsets the highway superintendent, that even a little bit gets out there, because he said a little bit over 30, 40, 50 years is a lot, and it's a tax on them and their crews. But it looks like it's holding.
So last month, we had a six-inch storm event over 24 hours, which is considered to be a significant amount of rainfall. Was that the remnants of the hurricane? Is that what that was? That was, fresh my memory. I'm getting old. So,
You don't look it.
it's the mask. So, takes away 20 years, I guess. The point I'm making is, it seems like it's under control right now in terms of, it doesn't seem like there's current issues, or it seems like there's been growth on site, Dan, and you've probably walked the site recently or
I
seen the site.
have walked the site, and I believe the Conservation Commission had 3 enforcement orders against them, and I don't believe they're closed out, or he has closed out those, but he has worked in progress of them. Again, you said you didn't want to be referred to another board, but really, they would be the ones to talk to about that and should be.
Conservation Commission?
Yes, they should be able to give you an update on.
He was there last night.
Did they provide him an update as to status? Oh, okay.
On Monday, you're talking about? Are you talking about on Monday, the conservation?
Monday.
Yeah.
Yes, you were at the Conservation Commission, and I don't know if you were on there for a while, but Lucky Circle was
Right.
on there, so I don't know if you were able to ask.
Yeah, Greg and I had a conversation with the board. I talked to Art, I talked to Marla, I spoke to the board.
That is where I'm gonna reiterate what Dan said. A lot happened with that property last year, and I don't think there's one reason why what happened occurred. I think there's multiple reasons, and it's all in the Conservation Commission minutes.
Mhm.
As I'm looking at them now, it's just an influx of, it's just a wealth of information. A lot of things were happening with that property that the conservation was trying to help control and help. They knew that there, it could be, and that's why people come to the Conservation Commission and file their NOIs and whatnot. So if you really want clear-cut answers, I think the minutes are the best place to go further.
Yeah, I think you'll find the answers you seek in those minutes.
Right.
Well,
I don't think it's just one thing.
Yes.
That's all,
Yeah.
that's all an intellectual pursuit. What I'm really looking for are the minutes informing the plan that is put in place so this won't happen again. I really don't want to go through minutes if I don't need to. I'm not interested in the minutes. I'm just interested in the solution, and has the town signed off on it?
Hey, can you leave your email address, and we can give you,
Sure.
someone on the board can forward off the plan that was approved.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was approved by the town, and now you're enforcing
Well,
that, or?
So there's 2 things. One, there was a planning board action. Second, there was a conservation commission action.
Against Mr. Felton?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was an enforcement.
Okay.
Right, so basically, and I don't know exactly what the conservation commission had, and I'm pointing to Dan because he's on the board. But the point I'm making is, we had different conditions, or we had different interests than the conservation commission, because they deal with wetlands, streams, and endangered species per se, in terms of their purview. Planning board deals with disruption of soil conditions that are relatively outside of their jurisdiction. So with what we focused on, we were focused on the holistically in the entire site, but also more so focused on the conditions that the planning board has purview over. So there's a stream that's up there, there's a stream crossing, or it's a intermittent stream, I forget what the classification is, but the point being is, we know that he was putting a culvert in there, a concrete culvert. We know that there was on the downstream side of his site, he had, as I recall, there was a forebay, right?
Yes.
That was going into on his front, into a bigger catchment area to retain water. I don't have the plans in front of me, I don't have the laptop.
And the size of that.
That's okay, I'm not interested in the specifics, just,
Significant rain event of a certain size, which is should be all in the plan.
Right, and he's got a concrete culvert, as I recall, that's going in at the high side.
I think that was what was being approved last night, right? The permit was being extended because he can't put it in because of all the rainfall, is what I've been told.
This timing got extended, okay. Yeah, we haven't been up to that, because that's in the Conservation
Sure.
Commission's.
And my concerns are important, but they're not urgent. I don't feel like something's gonna fall down the hill tomorrow, except for, there's some very large boulders on the hill. And I think it would be foolish if you didn't think that they might come loose, given what's already happened. They're extremely large, they're halfway up the driveway. I have photographs if you'd like to see them. And I'm asking the board to look into that if they haven't already, just to make sure that's a part of enforcement, that they not come loose. My children play in the front yard. If that boulder, if those rocks came loose, they would land up in the street, maybe even in our
Where are
property.
the rocks?
These would be boulders, and they're halfway up the driveway, the gravel driveway,
How
leaving.
big are they?
From where I can see them, I'll show you a picture of them if you want to see. I'm gonna zoom in. These small ones, he's placing right now along High Street, but the ones I'm most concerned about are these up here. And I'd say they're about 5, 6 feet.
So those are on the downside of his property.
Correct. It's a
So
pretty
they're not
steep-
like, yeah, but it's not like up there, okay, I see.
Yeah, and maybe these would stop them, maybe these would go. And the concern is, see this vegetation here? He's removing the vegetation, simultaneously putting boulders on the top. It feels like 2.0 on a, and a landslide's one thing, but a rock slide's a whole other animal. So I'd like to put that into the mix, that I have concerns going forward about the boulders.
Could you send those pictures
Sure.
Yeah.
to the planning board and conservation commission?
When you send me the email, I'll send you the
Okay,
pictures.
perfect.
Is that okay?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just the liaison, the select board liaison, but I was on the conservation commission when we were doing this property. Pictures are very helpful.
Okay, great, good to know.
If he is, you mentioned that he's removing vegetation, is he clearing more land? Is that what you're saying?
They look like, here, I want to show you.
I guess so.
This is the vegetation that, as of like a week or 2 or 3 weeks ago, existed all the way across the property.
Uh-huh.
And this is what it looks like now.
I see.
And I asked him, we have a civil relationship. He says he's going clear across High Street with these stones, the boulders up the hill are another story, but along High Street, I don't know where they're coming from, but he's taking his tractor, he's placing them there himself, unsupervised. I don't think there's any plans for this. Maybe he's allowed to do it, I don't know. That's why I'm asking questions, not making accusations. But at one point, he's going to be within 100 feet of the wetland there. I'm assuming that creek qualifies as a wetland, that Water
Yeah,
Street?
yes.
Yes.
So that would be Conservation Commission's jurisdiction. Marla said they didn't have any jurisdiction until they got within 100 feet. So if he does continue like he says he will, and that's a question, because he said he was going to move in, you know, the idea of it repeating itself is fresh in my mind, because I spent so much time out there and some of my money to clean it up.
I do not recall those boulders being in Bucky Sparkle's plan.
Yeah, and I asked him what he was going to put in instead of the vegetation that's there now, and he said, I don't know, but something. So it doesn't seem like there's a plan. It just seems like it's being made up as he goes. And the last question I have is, what's the plan going forward? I mean, does his permit expire? Does he have a building permit? Is he going to build? It's a little disturbing to look up there and see a trailer for better half of a year.
Do you think he's actually resided in that trailer, or is it just?
Yeah,
a
he's in there.
storage trailer?
He's in there.
Residing it,
Mhm.
and that's
I
not.
thought he had the permission to do that, and I don't like ratting on my neighbors. You know, this is not my style, but if you're asking me a plain question, yes, every night, almost, I see him up there coming and going in the morning, coming and going at night, lights on,
And you've let the building inspector know this,
yes.
because, again, he's the enforcement person.
Yeah, I thought the building inspector was part of the planning board, but
No.
part of the same department, but I'm learning. So I've informed Ron through an email of my concerns around the trailer, the building permit. Ron told me that the building permit expires within a week or something, and if he hasn't started substantial work,
Yeah.
if work hasn't commenced, and I don't know if that just looks like, him putting a shovel in the ground saying it's commenced, and then he's permitted an extension on this building permit.
So we've been dealing with this for a long time, and it's not just the planning board, it's the Conservation Commission, our highway department got involved, there was damage to our public property. we have landowner, we have another landowner there that's, and maybe other neighbors are concerned. I feel the frustration of this person right here. I really do, and I don't know whether we can request to have the building inspector, give us some understanding of what he sees happening and what the recourse is, whether we can ask Bucky Sparkle to come and give us a report on what's going on, because that was the last thing I remember, was he was gonna become accountable for the management of the drainage on this. And this, to me, is a very big concern for our town.
Well, so can I just interrupt for a quick question? That plan that you guys are referring to, obviously I wasn't involved at that point. Did that have a date associated with it, like
A date?
like
I
a
mean,
duration?
like a report back date or something like
Right.
that.
No, we didn't have that. I don't believe we had that in there, but what I would say is, I think you just unearthed some interesting info, is that it's expiring next week. Did you say that?
I can look at Ron's email and read it to you if you'd like.
So if it's expiring next week and he doesn't get an extension, then he's got bigger problems.
Right.
So,
And the town has big problems, because we have an unfinished lot here, that's concerned.
well, it's stable.
We hope. I guess
But we
it's
don't know
stable
if
because of
it's-
the summer, it didn't wash out, yeah. I suppose.
Yeah, that's almost anecdotal, though. I'd really like some inspection and some permitting.
So I think, I feel like you're getting a lot of these finger pointing to different groups. It seems like some of the concerns are right now in the building department's court. And, they're obviously, the building department's the enforcer of the permit that he currently has, which should be expiring, from what I'm understanding, shortly. If that's the case, and frankly, I don't know what the mechanism is for him getting an extension for where, I don't know if it's I don't know what the mechanism, I don't know if he comes back to the boards again to get something approved.
Is he allowed to live there? I thought he was allowed to live up there because he is living up there, but maybe I'm mistaken.
That's not our, that's not our purview, it's not a planning board action.
Okay,
It's with the building inspector.
That's with Ron again.
That's why I'm thinking we need to hear what's going on.
But what's our action? So we get him in here, what is he gonna?
A request of, what are you finding? Is this property owner, Mr. Belton, following our zoning bylaws? Is he within his rights to do what he's doing, or is he in fact not? And should there be some kind of,
But,
action?
but the action I ask is, respectfully, I'm just trying to understand,
Yeah.
the concern is it, his permit expires in a short time. What's the planning board's action with that? Because if it's in a week's time, we don't meet for another 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The point I'm making, it's a moot point. We don't have any,
So,
we don't have any enforcement action beyond telling, I think there's a mechanism for potentially telling the building inspector that he's got to review that permit. But
so is this a case of a frustrated property owner who's already incurred damage and expense, going to the select board and saying, I am not happy with the way things are going? What is his recourse? What is their recourse? Joy, do you have any thoughts on this? I mean, what else can
Besides
this?
my legal lawyer.
yes, let's hear the legal, let's hear the legal.
Or-
You're on the clock.
My counsel.
I do not do municipal law, this is not my purview. Yeah, I think, besides the permit expiring, I think the enforcement lies with the building inspector. But I don't think it's a bad idea to bring it to the select board. Because it has caused so many,
Yeah.
so many issues with so many different boards across the town.
Yeah.
And
Rich, the water's warm.
Are you a select person?
He's an advisor.
I would, like, it's, I'm in regards to having a plan, I think the only person that would have a plan, I don't think it's a bad idea to have Bucky Sparkle come back and say this is exactly what should happen. Do I think that what Bucky Sparkle is planning, or has planned for, is what's happening? That's another story, and how to enforce that, that is within the town's purview, within the building
Yeah.
inspector and the town administrator, and potentially, beyond that.
This is not the first time it's happened in town. I mean, this is very flagrant, but it's not, and the question is what is the recourse for a circumstance like this?
But you have to admit, it's extraordinary that the public way was closed, that the land has been forever changed.
Extraordinary.
I do know that the, North Stinson from DEP has been notified as well.
So
About what was going on.
I just have a question as somebody kind of new to this board. How would a meeting get established with all these people? We're talking about all these people. You've talked to several different folks in town. I mean, if there was a select board meeting, that this was on the agenda.
I spoke to paid town employees who
But-
manage the town.
No, I understand that.
Yeah,
I know
I've
you-
also talked to my neighbors, and we're all very concerned.
I'm just wondering how we get everybody in the same room.
Yeah, well, we
It's
could-
kind of what I'm asking
We
is
could ask
what's
for a
the,
joint meeting.
Sure.
We could ask for a
Yeah.
joint
Right.
meeting of the select board, the planning board, and the conservation commission.
and
Yeah.
ask the
And
building
the building
inspector. Right.
To be
so-
clear, this is, I'm looking for solutions. I'm trying to be a good community member, a good neighbor, and I'm finding it very difficult.
No, and I understand that. I'm not really asking you, I'm kind of, to be honest, asking everybody else, just how do we get everyone in the same room? So maybe that is,
Rich, as a, former South Hadley employee, what would you do in South Hadley?
From my perspective, the select board is a central entity of the town government. They are the custodian and responsible for municipal property. Most departments in the town government typically are appointed or hired through the town administrator or the select board. The Conservation Commission, I believe, is appointed by the select board. The building commission is very likely appointed by the select board and the town administrator. Therefore, I think the proper thing would be to go back through the select board and the select board convene joint meeting of various boards and various departments to discuss this. Because this gentleman's not here for litigation. And I think Paul is right about not offering an opinion because I assure you that if you did offer an opinion and it was contrary and was defamatory towards the other party or to their engineer, they would pursue legal recourse. That'd be my expectation. From my experiences, people have a tendency to pull their attorneys out and put 10 yards and turn around and file their briefs. I think the proper thing would be to request through the liaison that the select board and the town administrator convene a joint meeting of probably not all the planning board, but representing the planning board. There's a problem with having a quorum
Yeah.
of
That's
all
why
the
we joined.
boards in the same room.
Yeah.
You have to post the meetings.
Yeah.
And there's, from a practical perspective, you cannot have a meeting of the Conservation Commission in a meeting of the Select Board, or a meeting of the Planning Board in a meeting of the Select Board. That's just, from a practical perspective, that doesn't work very well. But representatives of each of those boards to represent their interest in convey results. And that's how I would suggest it be handled.
Can the building inspector be requested to come, or
Well,
demanded
the
to
building
come?
inspector, I assume, is appointed by the administrator or the select board. And if I were an employee appointed by that board and they asked me to be there,
You'd be there,
I'd be there.
okay.
Uh,
And maybe even the,
It's just,
Actually, at our next meeting, we have Concom.
Okay.
Yeah.
There, right? Is planning board coming next meeting?
no,
No.
that's
but I would
open
suggest
space.
that this is such a major topic, you probably want to have a special.
Special meeting, this is gonna take a long time, yeah.
Yeah, because what I'm hearing just tonight is this is a very complex issue.
Yeah.
It's a very volatile issue. And I don't mean to be disrespectful to anybody, but very frankly, if it was me and my property was damaged, I'd have been talking to my attorney, and they would have been notifying the person across the street that I'm seeking damages.
Well,
It only takes a letter.
he's not, he says he's not doing that right now.
But if it was
Yeah.
me,
Yeah,
I would have my attorney send a letter to him stating that.
well,
Because it's amazing when I get a letter from an attorney, what reaction they will get.
Yeah.
Most often, it gets some corrective action, because that's just the way things work.
but we can't advise him what to do.
I
He's
can't-
hearing it.
I'm not
But what we,
I'm
what-
saying what I would do if it was me.
He's not an attorney or on the committee, so he can say that.
yeah, but what I'm,
I'm saying what I would do as a personal
Yeah.
homeowner if it was me.
Last Wednesday, Ron, the building inspector, emailed me and said, "Thanks, Dan. I already had a conversation with the Board of Health and Conservation. We will be planning a site visit in the very near future. I'm also looking at the building permit, which will be expiring in the next few weeks unless construction commences. I will let you know the outcome once we have a site visit."
Also know that, like, you can't get a building permit without conservation, all the boards signing off. So if he did go apply for another building permit, correct, he would have to have conservation commission sign off and planning board sign off. So that might be part of the plan.
Well, my concern is that that Mr. Felton's going to ask his contractor to come over and drop off a piece of equipment on the property, dig a little hole and leave, and that qualifies as commencing construction. So his permit won't expire. I hope his permit does expire so we can re-examine some of these issues, if that's even the way this works.
So in terms of scheduling a meeting, Joy, is that something that with the select board?
Absolutely, I can email.
Take, and then I'm not sure in terms of, Mr. Felton would definitely need to be notified. I would think he'd want to be there. I'm not sure how that would take place. But like I said, I mean, my opinion, what I do at work is try and get everybody in the same room. So that's all I'm trying to say is, what's the next step to get everyone in the same room? Because we're not going to answer all your questions here tonight. So I think what we can do tonight as an action item is get a meeting scheduled where hopefully everyone could be in the same room and get some answers.
so is that coming out as a recommendation from the planning board?
I guess that's up to, I'd ask the board.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
I would suggest to you that the purpose of the meeting should be get all the boards and departments on the same page. Usually one. I'm not sure that I'd be, it's a public meeting, so anybody can attend, but I wouldn't necessarily be soliciting parties and private parties involved. That we mainly focus on getting the departments and boards representatives there, so that you have, as a town entity, an understanding of what's going on. It's a public meeting so I can attend and listen, but that's just my
No, that makes sense.
sense, one, two cents.
Are you from Texas?
Oh.
No,
Georgia?
originally, yeah.
Do you know, Richard is our consultant. I don't know if you knew that.
Very nice to meet you.
Okay. Who's helping us redo bylaws, so just so you know his role here.
I sensed there was a pull over here towards a gravitational pull. Thank you.
So we've had a discussion, we've heard from a property owner, but we haven't made any actions. So I wonder if we should make a motion to make this recommendation, that there'd be a request that our liaison to the select board arrange for a select board meeting, might be a special meeting. That'll be the decision of the select board and the town administrator to discuss this issue of this property, okay? So I'm moving that would be the action we're taking.
I second that action.
Vote on the floor is to send a planning board recommendation to the select board
Via our liaison.
via our liaison to have a departments meeting with the select board regarding 32 High Street.
Very good.
Palmer, yes?
Stein, aye.
Lavalley, aye.
Forgal, aye.
Thank you very much
Do you have any
for
Do you have
listening.
any other concerns or questions? We want to make sure you're not cut off in any way.
Thank you, I appreciate that very much. I would like a site visit. I've asked Mr. Felton several times. We walked the property very, very quickly once up his driveway, but I'd like to see some of this myself, and I know some of the other neighbors would like to as well.
I don't know if there can be a public site visit.
I thought abutters were allowed.
Abutters are allowed, aren't they?
If it's,
For, at least for Concom.
So there already was a site meeting.
There's a site.
So maybe that will come out of this joint meeting. That may be
Okay.
a recommendation that comes out of this select board meeting, that there'd be a site visit with certain people.
Okay,
And, you know, as a public meeting, you would be welcome to speak, because that's part of public meetings.
I'm satisfied. Thank you very much for listening.
I think I have your email address, dan@danmcnichol.com, and I will email you the email for the planning board, the email address, if you want to send any pictures.
Okay, thank you very much.
very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You made the motion, right?
I did, and Sarah?
Yep.
Seconded it.
Do you need me for anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Okay.
Hopefully you got something simpler for us.
World peace.
Where do we sit?
You can sit right there.
All right.
Well, thank you for the opinion on that past
Yeah.
topic.
My 2 cents worth is, I used to tell people that my opinion and $2 would get you a $1 cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Let me pass these out. You received, I hope, the information regarding the draft bylaw stuff. Gets back to a question I believe Dan raised at our first meeting with you. There was the cost and timing to do that. And,
Thank you.
basically, I see this project in the zoning portion in a 4-phase fashion. And look at the master plan, one of the recommendations of the master plan is reformatting the zoning bylaw. Whenever in my career I've looked at outdated zoning bylaws or bylaws in general, the first step I would take is reformatting and codification of what's there, so that everything that's there is in a consistent, linear fashion. Then I look at what in those items need to be updated. And I do that and be sure that everybody's fine with that before we start adding new sections. And in Massachusetts, when you have a town meeting form of government, it's particularly important, because you can take a rewritten, total new package zoning bylaw to town meeting and have it voted on as a package. The problem you have, as you will know at town meeting in particular, is somebody doesn't like one portion of it, half town meeting votes no because they don't like one portion of it, the whole thing goes down. So what I would be recommending that you do is you take the reformatting, maybe the minor update of existing to town meeting, you get that approved before you start working on the new sections. And if you have new sections, those go as a separate warrant article in their entirety, so that you get town meeting vote on the reformatting and codification
and then get separate vote on these new articles that they may not like, or they may like. And then once you have the bylaw where you want it, then you look at your policies and procedures to make sure that they get updated to reflect the changes in the zoning bylaw. Now, I know there's this, I believe the planning board's been working on this bylaw update for 3 to 4 years.
Yep.
Again, I would want to look at the recodification and minor update of existing stuff over the next 4 or 5 months and have it so you can take town meeting next year and get that step done. And you can also look, you've already got a draft of the site plan review, which I think needs to be rewritten, like I have suggested, like Larry had also looked at as well. And you take that as an article to town meeting with it as a new item, as a separate warrant article, so you can see if town meeting likes the idea of you having site plan review or not. But that would then allow you to have one of the strategies in the master plan completed, the reformatting codification. And then you start looking at the additional sections that need to be added. I know there's issues about a chicken bylaw. I'm not sure exactly what the chicken bylaw is about. And agricultural domestic pet farm animals. I assume somebody's talking about those little pigs and stuff like that. Because we had the same issue in South Hadley, and you can't have them, but people want them, so how do you deal with those? And then you had the rooster amendment in South Hadley. We won't go there. But some of those should be general bylaws and not the zoning bylaw. And I say that because, about 15 years ago, I had a request to do a outdoor lighting bylaw for larger parking lots. And I was going to do this amendment to the zoning bylaw. And I got into this discussion with Bob Ritchie, who at the time was head of the municipal law division of the AG's office. And I never get the advice that Bob gave me. He said, communities tend to put everything in zoning. Don't. And there's a reason for that. If you put under zoning, churches, nonprofit education institutions, and a lot of other uses don't have to comply.
Oh, okay.
Because in Chapter 48, Section 3, Master and Law, there are exemptions. There are exemptions to zoning, but not exemptions to general bylaws.
Okay.
So if there are specific uses or specific activities that aren't related to zoning, but related to activity, you make it a nuisance bylaw in your general bylaws and regulate that way.
So,
And an example being, there's some discussion apparently about a driveway bylaw. You got common driveway, but a driveway curb cut bylaw, make that a general bylaw. Don't make that a zoning bylaw.
But does that take us out of the jurisdiction of the planning board? Because we,
It doesn't have to. You can still put it in the planning board.
okay.
For instance, in South Hadley, we did a general bylaw that had the planning board as the reviewing entity. Some of it we had at the select board. But, so you can do, just because it's a general bylaw doesn't mean you exclude the planning board. You can, but you don't have to.
So that's great, except we do have a bylaw committee which is looking at our general bylaws. You're
Mhm.
aware of that right
No,
now?
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, and they've been doing it for about this, maybe even longer than the zoning bylaw review. And they're doing it very piecemeal. So do you recommend that these bylaws that you believe should be under the general bylaws, that we come up with the draft of them, we review them, we vet them, and then we bring them over to the bylaw review committee?
I think that would be a good approach. It would be that, depending on what their time frame is, and if it's going to be a standing committee that can look at them 5 years from now, 2 years, 3 years. And on South Hattie, they have a bylaw review committee that looks at all bylaw proposals on an annual basis. I think the planning board's focus needs to be on the zoning bylaw. And then if this bylaw committee is actually working on drafting new bylaws, you may want to say, we think these are 2 issues or 3 issues that we'd like you to take a look at. And this is what we think are the issues for those.
How would, just from my understanding, with respect to the general bylaws and zoning bylaws, and I understand the concept of identifying certain nonprofits as entities that are exempt from zoning, but how would you word it? How would you create such a mechanism in the general bylaws that, you know, that, so is it a general blanket statement? So for example, as you mentioned, the driveway bylaw, you would throw that into the
Right.
general conditions, or the general
For
bylaws?
instance, you can have general bylaw requires before you do a curb cut into a public way, you have to get a permit from the highway superintendent, and the plan for that has to be approved by the planning board. And then it doesn't matter who's going to do the cut. They have to go through those steps. If you had a outdoor lighting bylaw, for instance, if you're going to do a outdoor light a parking area of more than 10 parking spaces, you have to have an approved outdoor lighting plan from the planning board, and permit gets issued by XYZ.
Right.
These are the standards for it.
And that's pretty bulletproof from a nonprofit,
Yeah,
by right?
right. The only issue you run into is if you have been traditionally regulating it under zoning, then it becomes more problematic under case law if you start trying to do it under general. I say that, South Hadley is doing that, but it's not what I'd recommend. I wasn't involved in that particular issue. That we can't discuss that topic right now, but as a general rule, yeah, if it's not something that's traditionally zoning and you make a general bylaw to address it, everybody has to comply with. Everybody has to comply with, for instance, your stormwater bylaw. Stormwater bylaw assumed as a general bylaw. I hope it's not part of the zone. It should be a general bylaw.
Part of zoning, didn't we just do under zoning?
I think it's under zoning, but,
Yeah.
If you do it under zoning, the problem you have is those uses exempt under chapter 48, section 3 are exempt.
Well, that could be relooked at then, in terms of this, because this is pretty big, what you're
Right.
suggesting, because the zoning bylaw, the general bylaw review committee are tackling a lot. They're in a real kind of mess right now, and it has been going on for years, and I'm aware of that, and they're trying to hold public hearings with new recommendations and new bylaws, and I'm just not sure if the planning board can say, here, you know, here's what we think should be in general bylaws, take it. You know what I'm saying? We need to get their buy-in on it, I think.
And
Is that what we're saying? Are we saying that we would push it on to them? Like even if it's general bylaw?
well, we're not pushing it out
No.
to anyone, you're just assigning its organizational place, meaning
Right.
it's gonna be a general bylaw that the planning board reviews.
We can do the
and
work.
the planning board could do the drafting and then provide for them to look at and be sure it fits in with the rest of the general bylaws.
Okay.
But that's my suggestion. Some people put everything in the zone. I don't recommend it. I think Bob Rich is right. And I think if your stormwater is done under zoning, I think you need to revisit that. Because there's exemption, 48, chapter 3, section 3 exemption is a problem.
Are you saying stormwater bylaw?
Yes.
Okay.
That should be a general bylaw. Should always be general. Some people do wetland bylaws under zoning, and they should be general as well, for the same reason. You don't,
They are general, aren't they? Yeah, they are, yeah.
and if your wetlands bylaw is general, then absolutely your stormwater should have fit perfectly in that.
We have a illicit discharge bylaw that's in the general,
That should be general.
yes.
So that's my concept, how this process should go, is we should focus on recodification, reformatting, and then updating the existing portions before we start tackling new provisions. I don't know how you feel about that. And what I provided here is somewhere in here, yeah. A little chart. What I did was I took the existing zoning bylaw provisions. I put a status of codification reformatting, and then what the new recodified section is, and if I had any comments on it. For instance, the bylaw on non-conforming uses, structures, and lots refers to Section 810, but Section 810 hasn't been done yet, so I'm not sure exactly how far along it is. Special permit it's not been done, but it should be a separate section of the zoning bylaw itself. And I say that I tend to believe that site plan review and special permit should be separate sections of the zoning bylaw and not part of the administration and enforcement, because you want them to stand out. You want people to look at those. Those are very important sections of the bylaw. Additionally, when I do bylaws, I tend not to put application requirements in the bylaw itself or plan requirements, but rather empower the permitting authority to adopt policies and procedures or rules and regulations to govern those.
Which can be changed, altered on fly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's
Because
what we've done in town.
some of the stuff that's been drafted has the application requirements built into the zoning bylaw. I'd take those out and put them into your policies and procedures. And to the extent possible, and policies and procedures have the same basic application plan requirements for all plans with little tweaks for particular items, so that people get into a routine and you get into a routine of seeing the same thing on each of your plans. You want to see that so that you're looking for those. And it's really problematic when Plan X requires this, Plan Y requires this, Plan Z requires that, oh, and A requires this over here. If it's pretty consistent, then it makes it much more fluid to do the review.
So, I guess I would say, I like what you're suggesting. My concern is, I almost want Paul Deman here to make, because this is such a large shift, and he has been the force behind all these bylaw changes. I'd hate to make such a large decision without his presence.
Does he know what your recommendations are? Have you emailed?
I know in my email I mentioned, I mentioned in the email to Paul that after reviewing the master plan, the existing zoning bylaw, and work developed to date, I see the zoning bylaw update and revision task is encompassing several phases: codification, reformatting, updating existing, developing new zoning bylaw provisions, and then updating the policies and procedures. It'd be my hope that we can complete all 4 tasks within the next 12 months. Saying that, I would expect the biggest issue is defining what new provisions you want to have drafted and put in there. So I did mention that that was my approach to this. And I know Daniel had, I believe, asked what the cost would be. Well, reformatting the existing bylaw is pretty straightforward estimate. Updating existing bylaw provisions, pretty general, as long as I'm not doing major rewrite of them. Developing new bylaw provisions are more challenging because I don't know exactly what you want. I've gone through the master plan, I've got a list of issues from Paul. But to do the codification, I would imagine it's about $3,600 to do that. I said $3,575. Updating existing zoning bylaw provisions would be another $4,350. I would expect to be able to do the recodification, reformatting by February. I'm going to give myself some flexibility there because there's holidays, there's travel, and there's winter coming. And as you know, winter's my time to be outdoors. Updating of existing zoning bylaw provisions, I would see that by June. And then that would allow you to, I'm not sure when your town meeting is in Southampton. Is
Well,
it,
we're going to have a special town meeting in December of this year. The date's not exactly set, and then we usually have our annual town meeting. And don't forget, we just went through COVID, so that got all shifted around, but May is usually
May?
the special town
yeah.
meeting. I mean, the annual town meeting.
What that would allow you to do is very likely have the updated reformatted zoning bylaw, where you take town meeting in May, have them approve that. And then for the May of 2023 town meeting, have the updated sections and new zoning bylaw provisions for their consideration. That's,
Wouldn't it be nice to see this all done by then? It'd be great. I'm with Dan LaValle right now, agreeing that we really need Paul Stevens' discussion on this.
and I would expect that too. I want to lay this out for you where I see it being done, and because I could continue to make the revisions in individual sections and meet on a monthly basis, but I'm looking for, I know from what Paul said at our September 15th meeting and what others had said then, that there's a real strong interest in getting this done. And if I were on the board and I've been working on something for 3 or 4 years, I'd be wanting to get it done as well. And this is how I see it, how it could be done within my time constraints and without overburdening the planning board as well.
I see it as a logical and reasonable and well laid out plan. I think maybe we should discuss it when Paul's here at the next meeting and make our decision then,
Now, I won't be able to make your next meeting.
or the next meeting.
I could probably make the first meeting in November.
Does that hold you up from completing any?
No, not really, no. Because one of the other aspects is when I start looking at updating existing provisions, my intention is to go and proceed with reformatting approach. And when we start updating existing provisions, I can go and look at another community and pull that out and make changes based on it. But I don't know the issues you're having with those provisions. And that is what you need to be able to tell me. Because I look and say, oh, that's out of date. I like municipal XYZ's draft and start using that. Well, they may have some same issues that you're having. And I need to know what those issues are before I start making those type of changes. Reformatting is not a problem because that's just trying to get into a consistent fashion, and as part of that, identifying glaring issues. I redid a codification project decades ago when I worked in Georgia, and we had a community that had a bylaw on the books that said persons of a certain race couldn't be on the street at dark. And we said, well, you can't have that. So we just struck that out. There are some communities that have provisions that have a plan requirement that it has to be on vellum. Oh, nobody uses vellum anymore. Or linen. And
Mylar paper, you're saying?
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm talking the paper stuff that preceded Mylar.
Oh, okay.
No, so some of those things you take out.
Yep.
So there's certain obvious things that will glare and will,
Outdated.
I can correct those. But in terms of substantive updating, I really need to know what the issues the board has. And that really comes more clearly when we start going through the reformatted draft, because it's more clear what the bylaw says. And I think as I get those to you, we can sit down and go through those, and I have a much better idea of what you want updated in the existing bylaw provisions.
Okay, so for tonight, did you want to start by running through what you sent us?
We could, that's up to you.
Or does this need to be discussed with Paul? Have him be more involved on this?
For instance, on the common driveways bylaw draft, I pretty much just took the existing bylaw you have and put into a more sequential structured order. I say that, and I realize I printed the two sides the wrong way in my copy. I tried to see where items fit in, and where they didn't. And you'll note that, for instance, this is a good example where I refer to in terms of plans and application requirements. Required application plan will may authorize the use of, provide the issuance of special permit. All applications and plans must conform to the Southampton Planning Board policies and procedures. And then states the minimum requirements that your policies and procedures must address, without getting details of what a site plan would look like, what the easements would look like, but what the objectives of those requirements would be. And then give standards of approval. And some places don't do those things, and you really should, because, and those should be in your bylaw. And then some design construction standards that came from your existing bylaw.
So this is for the common driveways, not the general driveway.
Not the driveway permit, right. And then I took the dimensional standards that you have already and left those in there, because I don't know if there's issues with those or not.
So, I mean, are you looking for comments now, or?
It's up to you. If you have comments, I'd take them and I can start making changes.
I mean, I just went through and reviewed things and put notes in it for our discussion. I mean, I don't know how long you guys want to spend here tonight.
Is this something on email to you guys?
Yes, it was.
Do you want to have him forward it to you?
Yes.
He sent us drafts. We should include her on it. She's the
Okay.
liaison to a select board. Do you want to give him your email address?
Yeah, sure. I don't know if I have your email address, actually. I don't know.
First one, super easy. Page 1, capitalize the M in Massachusetts. Southampton, Mass. D, section D.
Section,
Wait, I'll forward
oh,
it to you.
okay, yeah.
I'm gonna run through mine. If anybody else has comments, they can shout them out as I go through the sections. Section 3, should there be a mention of the wetland bylaw on section C? The policies and procedures required shall include Site plan, draft easements, would that make sense?
In terms of compliance with it,
Yeah,
actually, standards of approval would be a better place to have that.
okay. The next comment I have is in section 5, where we talk about, the common driveway, you know, the layers of stone and stuff. Usually we talk about, or we previously have talked about when people are building roads, the temperature has been a concern. What temperature the surface is. So should we have some requirement around surface temperatures requirements?
Do you mean when you place asphalt?
Is that?
Do you mean like the season
Yeah.
temperature when you're placing asphalt?
Yeah.
We're not accepting this road, Dan.
No.
Oh, well,
So we have those requirements on roads we accept. This is
okay.
a common, so I think the common driveway
Those are-
provision here is for ability for emergency vehicles
Right.
to be able to access the site, to have adequate structure to be there.
Yep,
We don't
okay.
care if that roadway is, you know,
Yeah, it's gonna last.
that's their problem,
Right.
Right.
but, you know,
So we just call out these other items as general guidelines, I guess, then. In that section.
well, I don't know if the word guideline is it requirements? I think that's, the-
This is standards, which.
yes. So, the one thing that I've, under location standards C4, we kind of define a wheelbase for emergency vehicles being 50 feet. I think that's something that should be coordinated with the fire department chief, rather than setting a defined vehicle that might not be in the interest of the fire department. I mean, I could see the argument going both ways, but maybe we should say to be coordinated with the fire department chief.
Okay.
So does that mean, so say I wanted to build one of these common driveways, we'd have to check with the fire department chief at the time? Just see what their wheelbase is?
Well, what vehicle does he foresee going into this common driveway, right?
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I can draft something that basically let's say that it must be sufficient to accommodate the emergency vehicle apparatus of the town in accordance with the emergency, the fire and police chiefs of
Right,
the town.
yeah.
Okay.
Typically what they'll do, like on site design, they'll give you a standard vehicle size. They want you to demonstrate that's going to be able to be met.
Cool.
Yeah, in fact, they used to do that with the radius as well.
Right, exactly. The turning radius of the vehicle.
And we've had situation where they changed it from one project to the next.
So another thing that,
And the other thing that comes up also often, and this issue that we've had between planning board and emergency departments. Planning board is very into traffic calming. We had a bank project that in South Hadley where the planning board said we want traffic calming, and they went in for permit. The fire chief said no, because it'll damage our $500,000 fire truck. And so they had come up with another approach to the traffic calming. So you have to be careful when you start getting into specifications that the fire and police have issues with.
so, a couple things. Local standard C1, the very first one. So, I understand this is not a facility we're accepting. So we put 80 degrees here for the intersecting angle. I know in the latest site plan regulations, we had 90 degree in there. And I don't know if, if that's something that we want to continue using or,
90 makes more sense than 80 does.
right. So I think 90 should maybe be considered to be the standard.
I don't know why the 80 was in there, but
So, I like the D standards here when you talk about the minimum grades or maximum grades that we need to have for certain distances. So one of the things that I will tell you is I'm seeing, I know this is too much inside baseball talk, but we're running into, so for example, in town, we have a lot of vertical profile changes where, you know, we define, you know, it's gonna be virtually flat when it comes into an intersection with a facility, with our own roads, let's say when it intersects, but then, let's say you have a long common driveway that's on a steep hill, and let's say there's some maneuverable grade changes where a vehicle can bottom out. I know that there's significant.
There's a ledge or something.
Right, or there's, you know, defined vehicle clearances that are set forward. I think what we need to say is that, the common driveway shall have, basically a vehicle template, prepared for emergency vehicles accessing the roadway to assure that the vertical profile is not going to create bottoming out conditions for vehicles accessing the site. So for example, if you got a 10% grade beyond these set grades we set, beyond 30, 50 feet or whatever the dimensions here, and let's say it goes for another 500 feet, well, we don't want police vehicles, emergency vehicles to be bottoming out down the road. So we want to make sure that the applicant demonstrates that the full length of the roadway is going to be fully accessible along the vertical profile.
Let me suggest that under standards for approval, section 4, demonstration of safe and effective emergency vehicle access.
Right.
And that way, you've got these specified standards back here, but they have to be able to demonstrate to get approval. And that can be through template, they can be through the fire chief saying, yeah, we've looked at it and
Right.
it's fine.
So this is kind of a, not always does this thought come up with the design of these roadways, right? So I've been doing roadway designs for over 23 years, and the point I'm making is this was not much of a, you know, in my earlier years, no one really cared about the vertical, and there wasn't really software to help you analyze this, and now there is software
Oh, yeah.
to get that done. So where I'm going with this is almost spelling out that criteria is to demonstrate that the entire length of the profile of this common use driveway needs to be, that someone needs to demonstrate that it's going to visually demonstrate on the printout that it's going to make it.
And I think that should be a standard of approval.
I'm sorry, standard
There
what?
should be a standard for approval, that they do that. That when you've got standards for approval of,
Right, standards for approval, correct.
it should be one of those requirements that if they don't achieve that, they don't get approval.
Right, but I guess I'm just wanting to assure that this is not an oversight, because I'm
Right.
sure that not everyone's thinking the same thing that I'm.
And so what we can do is do standard approval, and then under alignment and design standards, or somewhere put in their requirement that they provide the vehicle template that demonstrates
Right,
this. And that could even be, I can add that to the standards of approval, that's one of the elements that have to be addressed. I get your point, and, you know, then we incorporate that in there very well.
I would also think that.
And touch on that, I'm not sure that, would these grades then be the right thing to have in here?
Well, you're defining the first 50 feet,
Yeah.
which is common standards across the standards, you know, spectrum, I guess, from what you see from many departments of transportation. But I think that's fine. I think
Okay.
that's lenient
Okay.
with the way it's defined.
Well, I was gonna say that some of these suggestions may also apply to not just common driveways, but all driveways, right? So these notes.
Well, that's. Do you want to explain, maybe you can explain the reason why we have the common driveway?
See, in Southampton, we didn't regulate common driveways. That was, if you want to do it, go for it. We're not going to inspect it, we're not going to regulate it. The main purpose is you could have individual houses with lots, curb cuts along the roadway.
Right.
Common driveway makes the roadway function a lot better.
Right, and the town is owned, so like Gilbert Extension, as it's commonly known as, it's a common driveway that has 12, whatever, how many homes there are in that section, right?
Oh, okay.
So if you notice, there's no sidewalk, the roadway is like 20 feet wide. The way that the property lines are assessed or developed, they basically all have frontage on Gilbert, but then they have a shared driveway that comes in around whatever, house number 50 or whatever it is.
I see. Okay.
So that's where that matters. So now you have, you know, obviously 10 or how many property owners, different property owners that are going to be serviced by town personnel for either emergencies or whatever.
Right, right.
So the point I'm making is just to ensure, and I know that that's a design process, they need to be approved, but still it's something that needs to be considered.
Right, for those common
It-
driveways.
You want to be sure that it, at least not initially falls apart. You want to be sure that someone else is responsible to maintain it, and they do maintain it.
Okay,
And one thing that this does is also provides a standard by which you can hold them to, for maintenance of it. Especially since it's done in a special permit. And that would then run with the property, and every subsequent owner would be responsible for it. Biggest problem I have with common driveways is it never fails that 40 years down the road, they ask the town to take it over.
Good luck with that in this town.
It's, yeah, it's, we don't do it, but they keep asking. My first 3 months in South Hadley, I had people asking us to take over the roadways in 3 condominium developments.
uh-huh.
And I had to do a 5-page memo to the town administrator explaining why that wasn't a good idea. It finally went away, but. Is there anything else on, common driveways, or?
I had, D, actually, it's the H1. I noticed in the Bylaws Committee that we were talking about earlier, they have a street numbering bylaw that they're working on.
Right.
So I'm just wanting to mention that, because I'm not sure if that may conflict with something here about street numbering. So maybe,
Well, is it street numbering or it's house numbering? That's the draft bylaw.
Oh, that's the same, they call it street numbering, it actually is house numbering, and identification. But that's a good point, and again, I took this from your existing bylaw.
oh, yeah, I just saw,
It may be appropriate to have something here that must comply with the town's
yeah.
house numbering bylaw. In the absence of one, here's the standards.
I just noticed that they had put that one out for review, that's
Yeah,
why,
they just had a public hearing
public hearing.
on this, on that general bylaw. I think that's something that's in their purview and they have more information and community involvement, or at least comment on.
And we can flag this so that if that does go forward, we can look at that one and change this to make sure it reflects that.
So for things like that, are we reflecting the general bylaw, or are we just taking it out of the zoning bylaw?
If it's something like this, I would recommend you have a statement that street numbers and identification must conform to
The general bylaw.
general bylaw and reference that section.
The last comment is super nitpicky, and you guys are probably thinking, well, you probably already think I'm crazy, but at one point, we talked about bonds, and we talked about how we would prefer to have Massachusetts state, companies, bonds from the state of Massachusetts versus other states. Because I believe Paul Deeman felt that it would be easier if we ever had to call on those bonds to be able to get the money back. So the question here about bonds is that something we wanted to say? It has to be Massachusetts-based bonds.
Are there bonding companies in Massachusetts?
I searched the internet, and there were some.
I think I think it's AAA or whatever it is. The rating might be more important than the state. Not that the state
Okay.
wouldn't matter too, but I'm
Yeah.
just, if we're gonna go down that road of
Uh-huh.
requiring them to be local, we may wanna also require,
Yeah.
Some quality rather than.
yeah, and I'm not sure exactly what that wording is, but,
Yeah, I've never seen the, I've never seen a Massachusetts bonding company issue.
So maybe the rating idea is a better way to go about it.
Considering we're pretty gosh darn close to the Connecticut border, you know, it might be that we're dealing with some kind of a company that has an established relationship with a bond company.
I'm gonna ask a stupid question. Can this, I mean, is this a violation of interstate commerce? Where we say you can't have anything from, no, I'm not being dead serious.
Yeah, you never know.
Because that's like saying,
Yeah.
you know, because it's from South Dakota, we can't accept it.
Let me suggest to you that, well, I would approach that, since this would be a special permit, that the issue of bonding or performance guarantee be addressed as a general statement in the special permit section zone bylaw. And there's a difference between special permit performance guarantee and a subdivision control performance guarantee. Under subdivision control law, chapter 41, the state specifies 3 different types of guarantees that are acceptable and allows the applicant to choose which one. Section 48, section 9 allows the zoning bylaw to require a performance guarantee. And a special permit performance guarantee, the town can decide what's acceptable. So you can have a general statement in your special permit provision that for any special permit, the planning board may or shall require a performance guarantee in a form and amount to the board's satisfaction. And then you can require cash performance guarantee. You can prohibit,
Letter of credit.
you can allow a letter of credit, you can prohibit insurance bonds. And I personally don't like insurance bonds, and I'll tell you a story why. When I worked in West Warwick, Rhode Island, we had a subdivision that was bonded. It was substantially unbuilt. They went default. Their insurance company was in Minnesota. In order to file against that bond, you had to file in the state in which the insurance company is registered. And our town council said the cost of litigation is such that we negotiated I think it's 25 cents on the dollar, because the litigation cost is going to be that high. And they said, no, let's get what we can and complete what we can, and then the town has to, they'll have to pony up. But that was the issue that they raised. And ever since then, I have not liked insurance bonds. But, yeah, so I think that'd be a better approach to handle, instead of specifying it can't be in Massachusetts, it's just got to be a performance guarantee to the board's satisfaction. And you can then decide you want letters of credit, and decide you want tri-party agreements, you can decide you want cash. Whatever you decide you want to have it on the project. And, because it may be something that, hey, this person got a special permit, and we're looking at $10,000 guarantee, and they want to do a tri-party, then want to do a letter of credit, that's fine. It's going, or they want to put cash deposit, because they can have it done in 3 months. And it's easier for them to do that, you can do that. It makes it more flexible address. So does that work for everybody, to address it that way?
I think so.
So is there anything else on common driveways?
All I had.
Just so I'm clear, you're highlighting here on one. That was just a change in wording from what is already existing?
Yes.
Okay. So the rest of it is the existing one?
Right.
You know, not including the comments already received tonight?
Yeah, what I've tried to do when I'm making a significant change from existing, I've highlighted.
Okay, so what is the purpose of after waiver, after section 10, these standards may be modified or waived when, in the opinion of the planning board, such action is in the public interest and not inconsistent with the purposes and intent of the bylaw. Basically saying a party can come before the planning board and request a waiver.
Right.
That's what you're adding on here, is that correct?
It makes it, I think it makes it clearer what the standard is for granting the waiver, and ties it back to this section.
Okay. So is this, I'm asking the rest of you here, is this strong enough for us, future planning boards, without the great expertise of all the rest of you? You know, is that okay to have an opportunity for a waiver, or should it be to the letter of the law?
Well, I think, just like other standards, we have waivers in that.
We always.
Yeah, I mean, you have waivers in any
Okay,
provision or any specific standard we have identified.
okay.
The problem you have, if you have a standard that's unwaivable,
Yeah,
is it probably works 9 out of 10, maybe 99 out of 100 times. But then the person comes before you and they've got a really unique circumstance.
yeah.
And everybody agree, the abutters agree, you agree that, hey, this should be done, but you can't.
Okay.
So we're saying in that case, they would go to the select board. But how you read it?
No, if,
The planning board.
planning board,
The planning board would still,
planning board can still grant the waiver, yes.
okay.
Or would be the party that would agree whether or not to grant the waiver.
Okay.
So on that one, page 1, where's the Larrabee building?
Oh,
Say that again,
on
Dan?
the planning, policies and procedures.
Am I looking at the wrong one here?
Where are you?
the planning, board policies and procedures, start with the word draft at the top.
Move to the next one.
Oh.
We've gone off the common driveway thing?
Oh, I was done with common driveways, yeah, I thought, okay.
Page 4, section, or the section 6 there. Right away.
Yes.
I think you're removing that word elsewhere. Granted, I think you're trying to not confuse what's commonly understood as right away, the
Right.
word right away. Did you want to change that? Because you changed it once already, but I'm
Yeah,
not
it
saying.
It should be easement.
Yeah.
So grant easement, yes.
And then I think it's also, the word right away is also,
The only place right away should apply, in my opinion, is when it's a town road.
right, but that's also listed under section B subsequent to that. Actually, there's more mentions of it.
I'll go through and make sure I make corrections
Yeah,
about
okay.
right away.
I'm glad you changed that, because that's a significant definition there. Do we really define? I take it the NDBCU, the postal service, that's like a,
Yeah, should spell that out.
Yeah.
That's the aliens dropping out from the sky.
No, it's like a heating stone.
so I have a question. Is this, so I'm just using the one on Gilbert Road in Southampton that is down the street from me. That has just a dead end without a turnaround. If it's got that many homes, is that something that we wanna,
I think you should always require a turnaround.
being like a cul-de-sac, something like that, or
Hammerhead or.
hammerhead, or something that has a,
Yeah, I would, on common driveways, especially if you have less than, let's say less than 6 lots on it,
yeah.
I think a hammerhead could probably most often work. I think if they've got 10, 12, they should have enough space to do a turnaround. Although there are some cases where they can't because the stormwater, we've done some strange stuff with stormwater at times. But yeah, I think some type of turnaround should always be required.
So should we have that consideration here?
Yeah. Turn under. Yeah. Okay, under 5D in design standards of turnaround.
Adequate for,
Adequate for emergency vehicles. Actually, not just, now, in Southampton, are common driveways served by garbage collection and, okay, served by, served by emergency vehicles, that'd be adequate for anybody else too then.
well, we have private collection,
Private collection?
yeah.
But if it's served by, if it's adequate for emergency vehicles, then a garbage truck, a utility truck should be able to
Right, correct,
access as well.
correct. Yeah, because there's nothing worse than having a vehicle backing up for 800 feet.
No. Or backing up even 300 feet and back out into the main road. because they can't see.
Right. Sounds like something out of Star Wars with the lightsaber, right?
When it stops altogether, we're gonna, adjourn. It's getting late, guys, I already missed it.
Yeah,
I already missed Jeopardy.
oh, man.
Jeopardy, that was 2 hours ago.
Oh, but you heard about the guy, he's right behind Ken Jennings, in terms of number of wins. You're really on top of this, Paul, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I haven't. I wish I had more time to watch TV. Yeah. I had a hard time getting in the latest prequel of The Sopranos there. Never mind.
Oh, do you even know that was happening?
Oh, yeah, it's on it. Oh,
I
yeah.
never watched any of that.
Oh, it's great.
If we're, are we satisfied with the common driveway review?
It is after, isn't it after 9 o'clock?
Yeah, it's
Yes,
9:15.
9:15. So do you want to put the rest of it all to, I'm here next time?
Yeah, I think that would be great with Paul. What do you guys think?
And I will tell you, I know in the policies and procedures, I have different language in there for butters. Because I know you go by 300-foot radius. That's not what the state law provides. State law defines parties and interest differently from 300-foot radius
So what are we talking, I'm sorry, 300-foot radius for what?
for butters. So you may want to think about that. In the draft policy and procedures, I use the parties in interest definition that's in the state law, which parties in interest are essentially it's abutters and abutters to abutters within 300 feet.
Okay.
The difference that makes from a 300-foot radius is if I'm across the street, I'm in abutter. But if I'm behind the lot across the street, I'm not in abutter.
Right.
I'm not a party in interest.
Yep.
If I'm on the same side of the street, I am.
Yep.
So when you do a 300-foot radius for butters, you capture far more than you do when you follow the parties in interest definition of state law. It took me a while for the assessor in South Hattie to explain this to me, because I came from places where we went by radius, and it's different. Massachusetts has a different caveat. Additionally, I have something different here as to when the time period for review begins. Your policy procedures refer to when it's deemed complete. State law says when the town clerk receives it. The planning board receives it, not when it's deemed complete. And my discussions with councils over the years has been, if it's not complete, the planning board has the option of denying the application. And what I found in my years is, if I tell an applicant, hey bud, your plan doesn't meet the requirement, so the planning board is going to deny it, because we have X amount of days to start the public hearing and then make a decision. They will most often give you a letter waiving the requirement to start the hearing in a certain period of time and extending that deadline so they can then get everything into you. It's a matter of conforming to state law and what the time clock is, and making sure that somebody doesn't try to say, their policy procedure says they have to deem it complete. That's not what Chapter 48 says, so I'm going to wait the clock out for them and try to get constructive approval. So I've got some changes in there that you may want to look at, and when we meet in November, we can go through it. I'll put what you want in there, but I just want to bring those type of things out to you.
Sounds good.
I had a quick question for the scheduling before we go, if that's okay. The My Town Gov, says we're meeting on November 18th, which is a Thursday, instead of November 17th. Was there a reason for that? Is that wrong?
It might be that when Paul scheduled it, you may just hit the wrong date.
And that's why, we were just gonna have that's when we're gonna have the community meeting for the housing production plan, was on the 18th, on the
I
Thursday.
don't think we ever meet on a Thursday.
I didn't think so either, it just,
Yeah.
it must have
Might
just.
be a mistake. I'll check in with Paul to see if he can make that change with,
Okay, I just wanna make sure I didn't miss something that it had been rescheduled or whatever.
I submitted a scanned copy invoice to Paul. Y'all need a signed original? Okay.
we love paper.
Thanks, Troy.
And do you have my email address?
I did, I emailed you actually.
Okay.
Thank you, Cindy.
All right, but
Do we want to talk about any outstanding issues, or we want a motion to adjourn?
I loved staying here till like 10:30 tonight, so actually I think we should have a lot more conversation.
More, much more.
Going on vacation, I still got to do work.
Oh, you're going on vacation?
I move that we adjourn. There's nothing pressing. What do you think?
Second.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Where are you going on vacation?
Florida, Sanibel,
Oh, fun.
5 nights only
Don't
now.
forget your mask.
I don't need those, oh, to the airport, yeah.
I was trying to avoid commenting on the project.
What's that?
I was trying to avoid commenting on that.
Oh, no, we always look for
The big
opinions.
mask? The big mask?